This video, John Kirby, what he has to say.
Well, John Kirby, Admiral, thanks for joining us. So, first of all, is President Biden glad that Israel took this action?
I don't think anybody's mourning the loss of Mr. Nasrallah, a known terrorist, a guy with American blood on his hands as well as Israeli blood on his hands. This is a terrorist organization. He was the leader of it. And I think people are safer without him walking around. But they'll try to recover. We're watching to see what they do to try to fill this leadership vacuum. It's going to be tough. That much of their command structure has now been wiped out.
So the Israeli strike targeting Nasrallah flattened several large buildings in the heart of densely populated Beirut, the suburb of Beirut. Do you have any indication at all what the civilian death toll might be?
I don't think we have an exact number, Jake. We certainly assume, in fact, I can go so far as to say we know that there are civilian casualties here. There's no question about that.
I mean, dozens, hundreds, thousands?
I don't think we can quantify it right now. We're in touch with our Israeli counterparts about that. Each single civilian death is a tragedy. And certainly, while, again, nobody's mourning Nasrallah's death, we certainly do mourn any loss of civilian life.
So before President...
He doesn't. Number one, he mentioned in the beginning of this video that Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah, they have blood of the Americans on their hands. What about Israel? They have killed dozens, hundreds actually, of journalists in Gaza. They have killed American citizen, Eisenhower, one of them. Then we have Rachel Corrie. Then we have Shirin Akula, the journalist from Al Jazeera. So the Zionists, they have blood on their hand too. So John Kirby, he is not acknowledging that. For him, Hassan Nasrallah is a criminal. He has blood on his hand of the Americans, but he forgets about the Zionists. They also killed Americans. Now, number one point. Number two is, guys, very, very interesting. This guy is here to condemn Hassan Nasrallah. And okay, no problem. He's a bad guy for you guys. No problem. But what about the people that you're killing in Lebanon? Oh, we feel sorry for the death. We mourn the death of any civilian. Do you really? I mean, did you not know that when you are providing these bombs, Israel is going to commit another genocide in Lebanon? Did you not know that? You know it. So when he said, oh, yeah, we do mourn the death of, innocent civilian, he doesn't really mean that any of those things.
Obama gave the order for SEAL Team 6 to go in and take out bin Laden. There was talk of an airstrike against the compound, and the decision was made to not do so, A, because they weren't sure about the intelligence, and B, because they were worried about, Obama was worried about civilian casualties. The Israelis went a different direction. Obviously, their intelligence was solid. But do you think Israel made the right decision doing it the way they did it?
Again, I think having decimated the command structure of Hezbollah certainly works to the Israelis' advantage. It's actually good for the region, good for the world. I'll let the Israelis speak to the decision-making process they made, why they chose to go this route. We are continuing to talk to the Israelis about what the right next steps are. And as you rightly said in the opening here, the president continues to believe that there needs to be time and space for diplomacy. And that means we'd like to see a ceasefire in place so that that diplomacy can breathe.
Iran.
Okay, another lie U.S. is spewing out, which is that every time they say when it comes to Israeli operation against Lebanon, Hezbollah, is that we are in constant contact with the Israeli counterpart. But that is not the case. Lloyd Austin, he said that he had absolutely no idea that Nasrallah will be struck by IDF, and Yoav Gallant, the Israeli war minister, did not tell him anything whatsoever. The pager attacks, we know they were aware, U.S., they were aware before, even though they denied. They said, no, we did not know nothing and we have no part in it. But that's a different thing. When it comes to Hassan Nasrallah, it is being said, Lloyd Austin is furious. He's not just unhappy, he's furious with Yoav Gallant, with Israeli counterpart, that he was not updated. So John Kirby, he's trying to portray that U.S. is still powerful. They have control over what Israel is doing is absolutely bollocks.
Condemned the killing of Nasrallah and said the U.S. is, quote, complicit in Israel's actions. How concerned is President Biden about the potential for a direct conflict, a direct military conflict between Israel and Iran, and maybe even involving the United States? Iran certainly has tried any number of things, including recently hacking President Trump's campaign, talking about an assassination attempt on President Trump. How concerned is President Biden about a possible direct confrontation between the U.S. and Iran?
We've been concerned almost since the beginning. of this conflict, about it broadening, widening, becoming a regional war. That's why, again, the president and the G7 leaders just a few days ago talked about calling for a 21-day ceasefire, and everything else that the president's been doing, including, Jake, adding force capability, military forces to the region, is designed to prevent that exact outcome. Now, we'll watch and see. We've seen the rhetoric coming out of Tehran. We'll watch and see what they do. We certainly will make sure that we have the capability to not only defend our troops and our facilities, diplomats and military, as well as Israel itself, if it comes to that. Hopefully it won't.
There was a State Department spokesman the other day who said that he didn't know of any incident in recent history where escalation led to de-escalation, and that is obviously a concern when it comes to these big strikes by Israel, no matter how abhorrent the targets, if there are civilians that are taken out in the process. Do you agree that escalation seldom leads to de-escalation, as that State Department spokesman said?
I think what we would agree on is that there needs to be an effort to de-escalate here. Again, Israel has a right to defend itself and a responsibility to do so. I mean, Hezbollah, under Mr. Nasrallah, was a lethal threat to the Israeli people. They want to get their families back to those homes and kibbutzes in the north. We want to see that too. We believe and continue to believe that an all-out war with Hezbollah, certainly with Iran, is not the way to do that. If you want to get those folks back home safely and sustainably, we believe that a diplomatic path is the right course.
The Biden administration...
Okay, so another big lie, obviously. I mean, he's lying one after another. He doesn't get tired of lying. This guy is a serial liar, and his first training when he joined the office, whatever he's doing there, he's a national communicator advisor. His first training was how to lie and convince people with his lies. Iran is interfering with US's election. What about Zionist? The Zionist lobby, they're actually buying your election, guys. They're buying your election. Okay, he's not going to obviously talk about that. Then he's talk about, okay, so de-escalating. Okay, escalating, so we de-escalate. Okay, so you give weapon, you give bunker buster to a bunch of Zionist genocidal maniacs, and you tell them, oh, we are giving it to you, and you tell the whole world that we're giving it to you because we want to de-escalate the situation. Like the bunker buster, some of them are mother of all bombs. These are huge bomb, and they have provided like 2,000 worth of bomb on each fighter jet F-15I that took the load and dropped it in Lebanon on Hassan Nasrallah's target. 2,000 each of them, 16,000 pound worth of bomb they have provided to Zionist maniacs, these lunatics. And at the same time, they're calling for calm and peace. They're calling for de-escalation. Like, is this how you do it? I mean, and you think that we are a bunch of stupid, foolish, and morons sitting here taking all your nonsense, your bollocks? Oh my God, these guys are so pathetic.
Frankly, seemed caught off guard by the strike. We were told that the president didn't find out about it until planes were already in the air. When the Secretary of Defense landed at Andrews, he seemed to distance himself from the strike. He said the U.S. was not involved in the operation. And before that, the U.S. thought that there had been buy-in from Prime Minister Netanyahu as to a ceasefire with Hezbollah, but then ultimately he was not on board. How strained are relations between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu?
These are two guys that have known each other for 40 years, Jake, and they have never, and I suspect they will never, agree on every single aspect of foreign policy and what we're trying to get done in the Middle East. But they do agree on the big thing. And the big thing is the safety and security of the state of Israel, and trying to avoid an all-out war that would put the people of Israel at even greater risk. They agree on that.
Another big lie.
They're going to continue to talk, and they'll be candid and forthright with one another. Israel, I think sometimes it's easy to forget. It's a sovereign state. And it's a small state, and they live in a really
unoccupied
tough
Palestine.
And they suffered the worst terrorist attack in their history almost exactly a year ago. They're under a lot of threat, and we got to make sure that they know that America is going to continue to support them in beating back that threat, that we're going to keep the force capability we need to help defend them if possible. At the same time, have some tough conversations with them about how they do that and what the next steps are going to be.
When you say how they do that, what you're talking about is whether or not the Israeli government and Netanyahu do enough to protect civilian casualties, whether or not they do enough to take into account innocent Palestinians, innocent Lebanese. And it doesn't sound as though the Biden administration thinks that Netanyahu is taking that into an account.
I would just say that we have had those tough conversations with our Israeli counterparts since almost the beginning. And we have made no bones about the fact that we don't necessarily see the tactical execution the same way that they do in terms of protection
But
of
the
civilian
U.S.
life.
keeps giving them weaponry to carry out these attacks.
Our support for Israel's security is ironclad, Jake. That's not going to change. We are going to continue
So
to make
again, like he's obviously admitting that we are going to keep on supplying weapons to Israel because they have the right to defend themselves. But at the same time, we're going to call them out sometimes just so that people would not see that United States has become United States of Israel. And Joe Biden and Netanyahu, according to John Kirby, they get along on every on every major issue, yes, but they don't get along on everything. Well, they don't get along on anything. They don't get on, they don't have to. Netanyahu doesn't have to be accountable to Joe Biden because your senile president, the Democrats and also the Republicans, they are all bought up slaves by Israel, by Zionists. So when they talk about having a level ground for all of these politicians to talk on these issues, it's not level. It's not level ground. It is out of kilter, to say the least. It is out of kilter. And John Kirby is here to show us how strong United States is, how updated they are. They are this, the superpower of the time. But these are all showing and exposing US's incapability, their weaknesses. They're being a weak country. They're being a country that has lost respect and credibility in the world stage. This is exactly what he's exposing to us through this kind of interview and lies. Guys, this guy, I don't think he will stop anytime soon lying. Obviously, he's going to be losing his job very soon once Trump comes into power. But whoever will replace him will keep on lying for the administration.